Welcome to Melt University. This series will help you build your brand, inform you on a variety of career paths, and introduce you to top executives in sports and marketing. Now, here's your host, the president and CEO of Melt, one of the largest independent sports and event marketing agencies in the country, Vince Thompson.
Welcome back, students. Virtual Melt University. We are rolling into the fall with all kind of fun and uncertainty going on college campuses, college football, college athletics, and what these types of careers are. But we've got a huge special treat for our listeners today. Two people that I respect more than anything in the world, personally and professionally. We share values, we've shared bread, we've broken bread. You may have seen him on all these amazing television shows, Chef Robert Irvine, who pioneered a new genre of programming with Extreme Cooking Challenge Show, Dinner Impossible, Restaurant Impossible. I'm sure many of you have seen him on the Food Network. Also, a brilliant entrepreneur, Fit Crunch, one of my favorite things in the world, particularly now that I'm inside, is my great snack. Amazing, millions of viewers each week, author of books, fitness expert, former military, committed to the nation's military. And one of those situations where we talk about chemistry and relationships. And I'll never forget the first time that he and I met at the South Beach Food and Wine, which seems like a million years ago. And now it was just February 2019. And we just had that sort of instant karma and instant magic. We knew we wanted to be together. He introduced me to Justin Leonard, who was his COO for Chef Robert Irvine. And I'll never forget when Justin and I met through this secret door in this great Philadelphia steakhouse. We immediately hit it off, and kind of a man after my own heart. Television show producer, content producer, loved the Philadelphia Eagles, extensive knowledge, SI Newhouse School. So welcome two of my favorite people in the world, Robert Irvine and Justin Leonard, to Virtual Melt University.
Happy to be here.
Whoa.
How are you?
How's that, Robert? Is that you want me to play that for your wife when she gets aggravated at you from time to time? Which I'm sure never happens, by the way.
By the way, my wife is amazing. She's away in Mexico right now, so it's good. But when she comes back, I want to play that.
Right. So this is gonna be fascinating, and our kids are gonna love it. But Robert, you and me and Justin have broken bread many times. But talk about there's a couple things we always draw down on, and it's the passion for whatever drives a student to get involved in something. And you had a great British military background, and now you parlayed in that to food. But sort of talk about that early passion.
Well, I think for me, it's Vince. It's very unique. The passion for my military and what we do in the military is simply because I served in the military. I know what it is. If somebody comes to visit me, like a USO tour, I know what the food means to me. I know what my friends mean to me. So for me, it's a very different passion because I've served like many people do, but I've taken that to the other extreme. So everything we do revolves around food. And I say that because if you think of declarations of independence, if you think of the Bible, if you think of births, funerals, all those things revolve around a center of a plate and food.
Right.
And life is about food and fitness and fun and family. And I think that's what we do. The passion comes from serving others. And everything we get involved in comes around those four things: food, family, fitness, and friends. So I don't know. Passion comes from many different levels, right? I can walk into a street. I can watch a garbage man pick up garbage. I can talk to that guy. I can talk to a dishwasher. And inspiration and passion and why they do those jobs, not only out of necessity to make money, but because they love doing what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me drives me. How can we serve more people and get better at what we do and give more away, as well as hope? And I think hope is a huge word right now in this pandemic that we're in.
Mm-hmm. Well, you and I and Justin have broken bread many, many times together, and what you've tapped on is that breaking bread, the dinner table, food is the emotional connective tissue. And if you look at all the subject matter on LinkedIn and our kids, but you seem to have tapped into a broader and deeper emotion with this, right?
Yeah, if you look at all of what we do as a company, um, and television, and it's all about, it really is just helping people and listening to people. And when you find something you love and you're good at, and food is something I'm good at, and in the military I was good at feeding my brothers and sisters that served alongside me, and I've just taken that and come out into the real world, of entrepreneurism, and said, okay, how can we do what we did or I did in the military on a broader spectrum, on a bigger platform, and touch many more people? And that's what we do in the military now. That's what we do with Fit Crunch, Restaurant Impossible, the distillery, all those things. There is a component of service. And if you look at what we've just done at the beginning of the pandemic, we talk about sanitizer out of the distillery. Fit Crunch, not only our military but frontline workers, giving them snacks that they can eat during or in between what they're doing. So there's always the human element, the connection, and you said, breaking bread. Yeah, we do, because that's the only way we can get to know each other. The only way we can get to know problems and fix problems is by communication. And the door opens when we're feeding people because we let down our guard.
Right, right. Well, I know, like, some of the favorite times that one of my most favorite breaking bread times with you and Justin was we were all in Miami for the Super Bowl, and I had the distinct privilege of going into Joe's Stone Crab, with you, and those are times you don't really ever forget. And now we don't have as much access to the dinner table as we had, and that's one thing that you and Justin are doing great work within the new Restaurant Impossible shows. But how? Because I know, Robert, like, keeping up with me is a full-time job for people around here. But how in the heck does Justin Leonard keep up with you full time? And how did you guys come together? And how did you? Because Justin Leonard's a superstar in this business. He's your COO, but that's an understatement. Went to one of the most prestigious communication schools in the country at Syracuse. And at a very young age, though, we encourage our kids to take the shot. So how did you and Justin come together? And Justin, how did you make the
Well, I'm going to answer this in reverse, and then I'll let Justin answer that question, because it's really funny, or it's not funny, but it is funny in a different way. I would say, how does he keep up with me? He doesn't sleep. He works, and I'm going to toot his horn a little bit here, because I don't sleep very often. I sleep probably a couple of hours a night, and then I wake up, go use the restroom, then go back to sleep for an hour, then I'm up most of the night. So I end up emailing and texting him, at silly hours in the morning, and I always get an answer back. And we have a rule in our companies that you have to answer back to me within 10 minutes of me, obviously not through the night, but and he always answers me back, and I'm like, what are you doing up? He said, well, why are you emailing me?
right?
Because that's the type of person he is. I'll let him tell you about the meeting and how we got together. Justin?
Yeah. Well, it's a really interesting story, and because of the listenership on this podcast being about how to kind of launch and springboard into the professional side of the business. I'm going to be a little long-winded, but essentially I was up at Syracuse. My girlfriend at the time was at Temple University in Philadelphia. I came down to see her over the Thanksgiving holiday. went to the movies, and who's in front of me in line getting popcorn? Mark Summers. Mark Summers was an executive producer, Food Network personality, but even before that, he was on Nickelodeon, which I grew up watching. And so I'm like, hey, Mark, what are you doing at the movies? And he's like, I'm here. I'm producing TV shows, blah, blah, blah. I have a production company. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Sit down. I'm watching the movie. I can't stop thinking. As soon as the movie's over, I run out to the entry to catch him before he leaves. I'm like, look, I'm coming back from, at the end of the semester in a couple of weeks. I would love to come and see what you do. And he gave me that opportunity. I came in and shadowed him for a day. Fast forward, I go study abroad in London in January for the next semester. And, I'm maintaining contact with him to stay top of mind. Every couple of weeks, I would ask him some dumb question over email or text message, just so my name stayed in his mind. And, that May when I got back, he had hired me as an intern on Robert's show, Dinner Impossible. And, that whole summer, I got real life production experience working alongside Robert on set at that time, making probably 16 300-degree cups of coffee a day, doing whatever I needed to do to be seen and to be heard from Robert and the other people. So I worked that summer on Dinner Impossible. And at the end of that summer, went back to Syracuse for my senior year. Fast forward a year after that, as I graduated, I was actually in Cannes in France at the Cannes Film Festival when, Restaurant Impossible had gotten picked up to series. They had shot a pilot earlier that year and, got hired to start as an office production assistant, which, great. That was a slam dunk. I was in the field. I was in the office. I was kind of getting my hands in everything. And, all the while, from day one, I think, Robert and I got along. I was always intrigued by just the talent side of the business and wanting to, have that exposure. And so again, it's always about going the extra mile and doing whatever you have to be seen. Fast forward probably about a year, I had been promoted to associate producer on Restaurant Impossible. And, I noticed that Robert, that show, Dinner Impossible, of course, made Robert a star and right. It was a very big show on Food Network, but Restaurant Impossible, I would say, catapulted his stardom to kind of a next level. He was getting calls left and right for, appearances and opportunities. And he had a partner at the time he was working with. And, there was, that they had ultimately parted ways and, there was an opportunity. And I saw that. And Robert and I, I was the guy driving him to set and always, with him. And so I think it was, probably sometime in early 2011 or 2012. I said to Robert, I remember I was sitting on the staircase of the office building where the shows were produced. And I called him. I said, look, you're taking your own phone calls for scheduling events. You're negotiating your own appearances, this, that, and the other. I'm like, you shouldn't be doing that. I said, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but let me help you. And, and Robert gave me that opportunity. And, look, I am not jaded in the fact that that's not, it's not every talent at Robert's level that would give you that opportunity, but right. He did. And fast forward 8 years and we haven't turned our heads back and we've grown, quite a business together. So I think there's two things there, right? I think that the message is if you don't ask for an opportunity, it will not be presented to you. You right. need to pave your own road. You need to not be, shy about telling people, or trying to reach out and find those opportunities, right? Mm-hmm. And just putting yourself out there. And it's not necessarily an easy thing to do, but you got to do it.
Well, you just hit on a big, big thing that we talk to our kids about. You got to take that shot because you don't know that you would ever miss the shot if you don't take it. And that's what happened to me at Auburn. First journalism professor, was a SID director. I wanted to volunteer over there, and I took that shot. You took the shot with Mark Summers, which now has led to this amazing career and partnership between you two. Wouldn't you say? I mean, like,
absolutely.
I mean, taking the shot, and Robert, we talk a lot about passion for our kids. Talk about the passion that informed you and Justin's relationship, and how you take that into practice in the building this media empire that you have.
Well, I think first of all, you have to find, and Justin's right there. I look and I say this to everybody, what are you worth a day? And I started with Justin, and I didn't pay Justin. That's the truth. We had a deal that if he brought some business in, we would give him 10%. It got to the point that he was making more money than me. And then we became partners. But it's kind of funny. I have a work ethic, Vince, that I will work 23 and a half hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And our business is based, all over the place. We send food to Afghanistan, Iraq. We've got bits and pieces all over the world. And you have to find people that are willing to do the same as you. And that's very, very hard to find them people, because they don't want to work. They don't want to go the extra mile. They don't want to do the things that Justin did to get noticed. And for me, when we hire people, it's not me that hires them. It's not Justin. It's a team of people that talks to an individual. And then we all come to a consensus, because when you come into our company, companies, you better have the same thought process and passion for people, military, and all those things that we do. Otherwise, forget it. You're not going to last. The team will police you out. And that's the truth. We've had that with a couple of folks.
Right.
So I think when I found Justin, and he won't tell you this, I will, what really endeared me in this 12-year love affair it is now, I think, or 11 and a half years, something like that, is that he was on the phone to 100 people in one day, cold calling people, trying to get things going.
God, I love that.
As well as run a show.
Well, Robert, what you've hit on, you guys are looking for attitude in self-starters, which is what we tell our students. This is going to be the game changer, right?
Yep, for sure.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think Robert, it is his work ethic. It is that, I'm working 23 hours in the day. It's not like that with every talent or every entrepreneur or every, anybody that works, right? And when somebody that, you look up to that is putting in, the same work that you are, if not more, it inspires you to be, doing just as much. And to Robert's point, look, we've been through a lot of people over the last 10 years together, or what plus, employees that have, it's a sink or swim world. There are a lot of people in today's environment that are out of work, and looking for a job, and that are going to be hungry. And if you are not as hungry as we are, you just simply don't last, because there's always someone around the corner that is willing to put in the extra time. And
we travel 345 days a year, Vince. So for somebody to be able to fit into that team, and I get a call, I'm going to Afghanistan. I get a call, we're going to Diego Garcia, we're going to Italy, we're going to Germany, we're filming in Wisconsin, Montana, wherever. And the team, as not everybody travels at that time, although a lot do. Mm-hmm. And so we have to find those people. And one thing that really upsets me with probably the modern day, the younger generation, and I hope that they're listening, is you have to get out of bed in the morning, you make your bed, and you look for positivity. We can change the world one day and one person at a time, but you have to have a great attitude to do that. Not everything is going to be perfect and rosy in this world. In your world, there's mums and dads fighting, there's divorce happening, there's all these things that happen in the real world that cannot affect your work. Mm-hmm. When you come to work, and I say this to my guys all the time, leave your personal stuff at the door, unless it's obviously, a funeral or something like that, then that's a big deal. Right. But leave your personal stuff at home and bring me the work, the best you we can have in that day. And if there's something going on, then don't hesitate to communicate. And that's something that we talk about all the time, is communication with our team. And I'm open to everybody coming to me, but it's much easier to send them to Justin to figure out what we need to do. And then Justin, if I tell you I talk to Justin probably, and not exaggeration, 100 plus times a day.
I'm sure.
It's crazy, but that's our communication level, and that's just without emails and text. my wife always says, you married Justin. Well, yeah, and vice versa. I'm sure his wife feels the same way.
Right.
But if you're going to run a successful team and a successful business, and the brands that we run, and the partners that we have, and we have to be good partners to those folks too. So I think it's all about attitude. It's about work ethic. It's about, do you really love what you do? And I can answer, for me, I've never had a day of work in my life.
Amen.
I've only had passion.
Amen. Well, and so let's take this through for a minute, because you just hit on some things. I'm sure you get hundreds and thousands of applications when people want to work for the giant enterprise, because as you said, it's spirits, it's magazines, it's television, it's energy bars, it's pots and pans, and all God knows what else you're into since we've broken bread. What gets Robert and Justin's attention to get in the door at Robert Irvine Enterprises?
Justin, you want to tackle that?
Yeah. I mean, look, I think, well, first off, because it is such a big company and we have kind of, leaders in each division, I would say Robert and I are not micro managers, like for instance, with our FitCrunch brand, we have a president, a CEO over there that's running that for us, Patrick. He's got the ownership and we trust the people that we hire. We're hiring the best of the best to run each of these divisions, whether it's our food company, our distillery, our foundation, et cetera. So we're giving ownership to people to make hires that, they're going to be proud of, because ultimately, they need to produce results for Robert. I think it's we're looking for those people, with that drive, with that same drive. And I keep kind of hitting on that, but to me, that's the biggest thing. It's knowing, look, if I'm putting in the 12-hour day every day and I'm getting back on emails and stacking and just working as hard as I can, then we expect that in everybody. And I think because of Robert, that's the one thing I always stress to anyone that is interviewing. It's like, you better be ready to this isn't the other job you had before. This is working for Robert, and there's a different set and a level of expectations.
Right.
But I think we don't operate as some big corporation, it's us, it's me and Robert. And so I think there's it's a little different, right? Because we have, as we've grown and scaled our business, we've hired some folks that did come from kind of the corporate background, and they don't really make it far with us.
Right.
Because we're not the company that's going to give you, a fixed set of vacation days and X dollars toward your mileage and this, that, and the other. Because that's just not the way me and Robert think. You're part of the team, and you're going to earn your status here, and we're pretty easy as long as you get your stuff done. Robert has never asked me,
that's pretty simple, right?
I mean, it is that simple.
It is simple, because we don't, and Justin hit a thing there. We don't, I don't tell people when to go on vacation. I said, you need vacation. You can take as much vacation as you want, as many days off as you want, but you better make sure that your work is complete. And I have very, very high standards of work and completion. And my phone will go off in a minute, I believe it. And I want you to be as hardworking as me.
Yeah. Well, and one other thing, and I think you touched on this a little while ago, Robert. It's expectation, of certain individuals that's kind of what irks me, because it was not easy for me in the first, 5-6 years of working with Robert, because there's a learning process of how to work with someone on such a deep level, which we do. And, it took a long time for me to, really find my path with him in communication and, and not hiding and just saying everything that, you need to say, because that's how you get business done. And you respect someone more for being open and honest, and good, bad, or ugly, just getting it out,
Right.
And there were times in those first years that were just incredibly stressful. I mean, look, we have stressful days all the time, but I'm just saying, to get to the point of where I am, I'm younger in my role, but it's when people are hired and there's an expectation that they deserve something. Maybe that's fine in a corporate, a Fortune 100 company where you're a cog. and part of a big machine. But here, everybody's presence is felt, and everybody needs to contribute just as much as Robert and I do. And I don't care where you came from. You could have been the CEO of Apple, but if you come in here expecting X, Y, and Z and you don't produce, you're no good for us. So you need to.
Well, we just hit on it, and you guys are as passionate about it as I am. But I see so much expectation of instant gratification from this generation now, and particularly in the post-COVID world. We've got to explain to them this is not going to happen, right?
Yeah. One of the things I found, and Justin mentioned something, and we'll get that in a second, Vince. But Justin said 4 or 5 years, if not more, to figure out how to tell me bad news, because I'm pretty intimidating,
right,
and I don't have time. Tell me what it is, get it off your chest, and move forward. And that sometimes is tough,
right?
All the guys I have, they won't come to me with bad news because I'm like, whatever. They go to Justin, then Justin breaks the bad news to me, or the good news. Either way, it doesn't matter. But that communication piece and trust, you've got to be able to. It's almost like trusting your wife with everything, right? You say, well, here's my whole life. This is what I do. And literally everything in my life, Justin knows. There's no secrets,
right,
in this place. And I think that trust level is so important. And when we talk about the new generation, there are a lot of things going to change in this post, or in the middle of COVID and post-COVID.
Big time.
COVID is not going away. We know that the way we're changing all the protocols for restaurant openings and seatings, the way television, the way business, the way we sell our food is done, on Zooms and FaceTimes now. We don't even go to a place anymore to show them. So there's going to be a huge new learning curve for everybody, including us. And we've already started that, the way we ship food, the way we have our meetings and these kinds of things. So, yeah, the modern day, all those things that we did to be successful, now we have to step them up again and change and pivot to be the next 20 years or next 10 years, right, where COVID is there, just like the influenza, and it changes those things. So people have to listen and pivot.
But don't you think that should ultimately benefit this next generation of student and consumer because of their level of sophistication, if they're willing to pay the dues?
You just said it, Vince. I could hug you right now. You just said it. Mm-hmm. If they're willing to pay their dues. Mm-hmm. And they don't, because they want immediate gratification and entitlement. And I say that with the people I deal with. Mm-hmm. It's not everybody, we can't paint that brush. But if there's any smart folks listening, they will do exactly what Justin said when he started his opening statement. Anything to get the job done and get noticed. And you've got to have that can-do attitude, no matter what it is. I was telling a story yesterday about when I was 16 years old, cleaning the forecastle, the front of a warship, on my hands and knees, right, gray paint, to the point that I was so tired I fell asleep doing it.
Wow.
I mean, I was literally dog tired, and yet the guys kept kicking me, come on, we got to do this, we do this. And this is a team effort. When I joined the military at a young age, I never forget, I was squared away, my boots were clean, my bunks were great. They never did anything to my bunk. But the guy came to me and said, hey, listen, we're going to throw you out of the Navy. This is my first basic training. I said, why? I'm putting my kit's perfect. I know the drills. Because you're not a team player.
Wow.
Like, yeah. You want to talk about somebody that's worked to get into the military, hard and dedicated. And that night, I will never forget this. And I just finished telling Dave, my director of our foundation and vice president of stuff, I literally woke 12 people up in my mess deck in my dorm at 2:30 in the morning because I was cleaning 12 sets of boots and pressing 12 pairs of trousers. And I'm like, why am I doing this? They're not going to learn. Teach a man to fish, you'll eat forever. Teach a man to fish, the story. I woke them up at 2:30 in the morning, and everybody was upset. I'm like, no, I'm going to teach you how to do your kit. And we did that, and it took almost 4 weeks for these 12 people to get it. They eventually got it, and I stayed in the Navy. So it's really, that was a big awakening for me. Team is everything.
Yeah, it is. There's no I in team, and so we could talk all day about this, but Robert, I know a little too much about you, and so you get to America and you start cooking for Donald Trump, correct?
Yes, sir.
Let's,
Yes, I
let's,
was.
let's talk about that a little bit, because unwittingly that parlayed you into all this other success, right?
Well, I was working in Jamaica at the Renaissance Jamaica Grand Hotel as the executive sous chef, number 2 guy. Intercontinental and the Hyatt at Mallards Beach were put together by Renaissance, and I put them together. And I got an opportunity from a headhunter to go to interview with Donald Trump. Little did I think it was going to be with Donald Trump. Yeah, that was a scary part. I flew in from Jamaica. I had 2 days into Atlantic City. I've never even heard of Atlantic City, let alone fly into it. But I flew into Philly. They had a big limo, stretch limo, waiting for me at the airport, which was almost obnoxious when I think about it now. But
Had you ever been in a stretch limo at the time?
No, listen. I'm a little kid from England. My parents with no money. I'm a poor guy. This is a true story. I was making $30,000 a year as the executive sous chef in Jamaica, but that was really all money in my pocket because I had housing, I had food, I had beer, I had nothing.
Well, let's face it, you're in Jamaica. I mean, it can't be that bad, right?
No, it was pretty good. But then I flew in. I did all the interviews in the daytime, knowing that I'm leaving at like 8 o'clock on a flight back to Jamaica from Philadelphia, and I'm in Atlantic City at 6, and I haven't even cooked yet. And I'm
that's part of the audition process, right? I mean, you got to put yourself out there.
Absolutely. I walk into a kitchen. I'm waiting. Donald Trump walks in. He said, "Make me a dinner, 3 courses, whatever's in those refrigerators," and I did. I finished at 7:30. That was at 6. I finished at 7:30. He said, "Food was great." Rudy Prieto was the general manager or the president of the casino. He was sitting with Donald, and he said, "Okay, come back in the kitchen. I know you're leaving. Car's ready for you." And I'm like, "Well, do I have a job?" Nobody said anything. I got back on the plane not knowing whether I had a job. I get a call the next day and said, "Hey, yeah, we want to bring you in." I give a notice, flew into Taj Mahal. My daughter, Annalise, was 6 months old.
Wow.
We lived in a hotel next to the Taj Mahal that Donald Trump owned. It wasn't so nice, not as nice as the Taj, by the way. But there we are until we got situated. It was like 4 months. I worked literally 18 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
My first 4 months, I was undercover. In other words, I didn't put a chef's jacket on. I didn't cook. I just went around at 6 p.m. in the evening, and I would listen and watch and take notes for 4 months, 3 months actually.
Wow.
And then when I put a jacket on, I went and fired a few people because of what they were doing in systems. And we really started to change the dynamic of mediocrity, because my 3 partners, other executive sous chefs, had been there for a long time. I actually fired 2 of them, kept 1.
Wow.
I said to Donald Trump in that interview, if I come here as the executive sous chef, by a year, if I'm not the executive chef, I'm out. And true enough, a year to the date, I was the executive chef running the whole show.
Wow.
And a big pay raise. But that was the thing, again, passion. I lived in that place, and I wanted to make it better. And I was allowed to, because they put trust in me, to bring in new chefs. I brought 30 new chefs in, one of which, Shane Cash, works for me. He's been with me almost 24 years.
Yeah, I love him.
So, and he still works with me now. So it was a great experience for me, because we went from doing 15 million a year in food and beverage to 83 in a year.
Wow.
And then I had the the power to do pretty much anything. Change-wise, obviously, I still had a boss, but I'd proven that, listen, if you do these things and we can bring in these things and people, we can save money and get a better quality product doing it, the right way.
I just want to fact check one thing there, Robert. You mentioned you fired a few people?
Well, yeah, it was 300.
Yeah, a few hundred, but we won't let little details get in the way.
Yeah, but the funny thing I will tell you, I got death threats. My car, you've seen the movie Roadhouse?
Yeah.
My car was parked I had a Honda Civic, and they trashed that. But I could never have any of my personal information in the HR department because it was not very nice. Right. I was a marked man, as they say.
Well, you had to have the courage, but I want to segue into something because, you guys are just hugely successful. I mean, monstrally successful in so many spaces. But one thing we talk about to our students is that don't be afraid to fail. And what was some of you guys' greatest failure? But what did you learn from them?
I can tell you, we've had a lot of failures, and that is, we've launched products. We launched a brownie, an 8-second brownie, which I thought was going to take the world by storm. It failed. It was miserable because it wasn't what people wanted. We launched an iced tea, a sports iced tea. That didn't work, and we've launched a few other things that didn't work. But what we learned is, listen. When I started the food company, and I say a long time ago, it used to be me writing things down on the side of a pad on my bed, and then let's make pizza today. Let's make bearing in mind that a minimum run is 100,000 units. So I'd have these brain attacks in the middle of the night and say, let's do this, and we do it, and only to know that people really didn't want that, And I think at that point, the biggest lesson for me was, let's listen to what the customers and the buyers want, then create it. Mm-hmm. It's not about what Robert Irvine wants. It's what sells and what the people want.
Mm-hmm. Justin, well, how would you?
No, I mean, I
you probably bear the brunt of some of those failures if I were a betting man.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. I think, to Robert's point, a lot of it is just now kind of, instead of throwing things against the wall and seeing what sticks, we're a lot more strategic with our brand vision and what launches and what new products we're bringing to market and who our partners are. But look, I think a couple things. I think as long as you're learning something every time you fail, right, that it's a success in some ways, you know what I mean? Because the things that we've learned over the last 10 years together, it has changed and made us successful today. And so, I think it's okay. It's absolutely okay to fail. I mean, you're going to fail. Everyone's going to fail at something. And it's just, how you get back up and put yourself back out there, but also, taking something from that failure and bringing it with you into the future. And I think someone in the military said, you fail fast, right? So you need to adapt and overcome. And so if you see something, going underwater, it's righting that ship, as quickly as possible and getting ahead of it. But, look,
it's about noticing before it gets too bad. It's about noticing that it's failing. And I think to echo what Justin said, we may have had failures. They weren't epic failures. They were. It's almost like Paul Prudhomme would say, blackened fish came from him forgetting it on a stove. Right? All of a sudden, it became a phenomenon, and he created a multi-million-dollar business out of blackening spices shortly after that. So I think what we have done is the same thing. We may have failed at something, but we've made other companies fix problems so they didn't fail.
Right.
And we have partners that are into ingenuity and obviously when we create food, we're not creating something that's new, right? Because most of food, or it's like cooking, recipes have been around for hundreds of years, and we just kind of put in one man's kind of tweak on
right.
it. But it's all been done somewhere, So when we created a protein bar, somebody said to me, well, I've got a protein bar company and you should make your own protein bars. And well, why do we do that when there's 230 something protein bars in the market? Well, because we're different. We wanted to try something and it worked. It could have gone the other way.
Right.
So I think we try and think of now, as Justin said, we try and think of where is the space, where is the market we can squeeze into? Is it a niche market? Is it a big market? Or is a Walmart, a Sam's Club, a Costco coming to us and saying, hey, we want this product made better, cheaper. Can you do it?
Mm-hmm.
And I think we hit all of those. And then there's the military side, the same thing.
I love that fail fast because we tell our kids, like, you got to have like a baseball pitcher's memory. If you you throw a home run, the next pitch, still got to count again. And so I love that. And so from the couple things from the per day that you sit on, where are the future opportunities in content, production, food service, food marketing that our students, because I say the campus is the ultimate professional lab, Robert and Justin, food service, canteen, cafeteria, safety, hotels, hospitality, concessions. Where do you see these and where should our kids be looking?
I think there's so many opportunities, and unfortunately, right now we're in this COVID piece. And I'm going to start off with this statement. We have 11 million hospitality workers that are slowly coming back to work. Mm-hmm. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And it's going to take a couple of minutes to get back to the new normal. But I'm going to tell you, in the areas of innovation, right? What is the next innovation? And I sat last year at the Fancy Food Show on a panel to look at 3 innovative things that one was to make cheese balls. One was what is the next not meat product? What is the next not chicken product? I think innovation in the food space is going to be key. Mm-hmm. And again, I just said anything we create right now has already been done. We've already got a coffee mate. We've got a Coke. I'm not going to recreate Coke, right? Nobody can do it. Thousands of people have tried it. Right. So look at how can you make a difference? What's going to be almost like what is your legacy when you leave this world? What are you going to be known for? And that's how I think there's. Are you going to be the best hotel manager? Are you going to be the best technologist? And by the way, technology, food, and hospitality right now is crazy. A couple of years ago, remember, they came out with the first technology hotel that was all about, no keys. You've got to use this. You could use your phone for PayPal. You could do it. And I think technology in the food space
right.
and hospitality space is going to be huge coming up. There are lots of opportunities to cook. There are lots of opportunities to manage. But what is new? And we see now tamper-proof boxes. We've seen payless or cashless apps on phones. We've created the Virus Safe Pro, which is where we can bring you back to work in a safe environment, or a QR code that says, hey, listen, you can go to this restaurant with your 80-year-old lady, your 80-year-old grandmother, or an 80-year-old person, or a 3-year-old child,
right?
Because we know it's safe. So I think there's lots of opportunities for out of the box thinking, right? Again, we talk about pivoting. These amazing kids that we're talking about right now are our future. They're the next generation of not only technologists and food and hospitality, but they're also the next part of our military and things like that. Mm. When we think that we don't have planes, right? We have warplanes, right? But we also have drones that a 19-year-old kid, and I say 19-year-old kid, that can't drink beer, but it's a $180 million drone that he's flying to do his job in the military, yet he can't drink. So I think, it's always interesting to me, and I listen to my daughter. My daughter's a 22, and Annalise is 22, and Talia is 19. Mm-hmm. And I want something doing smartly. I ask one of those.
Right.
Because they're much more intelligent in the tech space than we are. Sorry, than I am. Not so much Justin and you probably, Vince, but me. So I think there are lots of opportunities. It's just really finding
right.
What do you want to do? how do you want to make a difference in the space you want to enter into?
Well, and it's and also you hit the nail on the head too, combining that passion. This is the most sophisticated generation of consumer. In chaos, there is opportunity, and we could go on all day. But as we close, all these amazing emotional shows that you film, I watch them, and I'm almost in tears all the time. And I try to go frequent my local.
Do you cry?
I'm sorry.
Do you cry?
I'm not known as a crier, but I will say that, my dad was a merchant and owned a grocery store, and I'm very relatable to those situations. But do you have a favorite? I know I have a favorite one of yours, but you guys, who's the best of all time?
Justin?
What was the question, Vince? Who was the best?
After all the restaurant imposters, I remember Robert, the African American minister, I believe it was, where you were on the porch with him. I mean, I was just like, because I'm so relatable with me growing up in Lower Alabama. But what's the favorite story?
Well, I've got a couple, and I want Justin to answer it. Well, one we did a couple of years back, actually, probably more than a couple of years, probably 5 years. It was a family with an autistic child. They had a restaurant. He was 300 pounds, one of 12 people in the world that had this, or in the country, I should say, that had this disease. Wow. We give the restaurant back. He was in a wheelchair. We give the restaurant back. And just before I give the restaurant back, I noticed on my last pass through that there was a wall in a service station that I pulled off a door and put a curtain. But the wall was empty. So I asked Tom, my builder, to find me a picture that had the colors of the restaurant. He found a picture, put it up. We opened the doors, and this young man, it was unbelievable. He jumped out of his wheelchair, saw the picture, and little did I know that he painted this picture.
Holy cow.
The Make-A-Wish Foundation event. He went nuts. He almost bowled me over. And if you know, autistic children don't normally, they go to one parent, and there's a lot of behavior. But he hugged me if he hugged me any tighter, I'd have no eyeballs left. But and he passed away. And I never forget this. He was his mom and dad were about to be thrown out the house. And I said to my producer, Mark Summers, I called him. I said, just give me $10,000. Don't ask about it. I'll give $10,000. We'll pay off the mortgage. Because his kid, LJ, was going to die. And I didn't want him to die in the house that he grew up in. Mm-hmm. And I think that, for me, changed my whole life.
Wow!
Because my daughter Annalise was in the restaurant when this happened. I burst out crying like a little girl. I mean, I was a grown man, and I broke down on TV doing this. So I think that was one of my all time. And then last night, Drake's Place. I get so attached to these families. Especially, you can fail in business, right? And we just talked about that. You can fail, but at the end of the day, if you're failing because it's you, then I can help you. But if you're failing like Restaurant Impossible back in business because of COVID, I can still help you, but you've done nothing wrong.
Right.
It's the government to shut you down. I've got to get you back on track. So we've done 230 something episodes of television in Restaurant Impossible without the other shows I've done. And I can tell you, every one of the families that I talk to and I've become friends with, and they all stick for a different reason. Justin, you got any?
Well, so I wasn't going to speak to a specific episode, but more to, so it was the second episode of Restaurant Impossible in probably, let's call it like September 2010 in Rhode Island. And after the episode, we were all gathered, the whole production crew was gathered at the bar of the hotel and, just reminiscing about the show and talking about it. And I think all of us at the same time had a realization that what we were doing was not a TV show. It wasn't just about producing a reality TV show, right?
Wow.
We had this realization that when we walk away that night, that we're leaving these people for the rest of their lives with their business. And while, and so whatever we did over those 48 hours that we were there, whether it was Robert coaching them on, their family issues or emotional drama, fixing their decor, working on the menus. This is their livelihood. And these are their lives. And the one thing that we pride ourselves on in producing Restaurant Impossible is that it is a real TV show. And these are real people.
Right.
And that is so important to because, and that, by the way, to sum it all up, I mean, that's just who Robert is. That's at the end of the day, it's about helping people and leaving them better than we found them. And so, I think just the nature of our show is different than any other show in television. And
they trust you. When you walk in the door, they're putting their whole life
in your hands.
Right. No, and so as we wrap, tell us what's new coming up, because we want to make sure that our students and their families know all about it, and how can they follow you on social media for new and exciting news from Robert Irvine and Justin Leonard.
So you can see, obviously, Restaurant Impossible, we're back on the road. We've just finished 10 episodes of Back to Business. We are back on the road with the real Restaurant Impossible in a couple of weeks. You'll see a lot of our new products coming out in Camping World with Marcus Lemonis in the next couple of months for sure. We partnered with him. We've got the whole kitchen line and RVing and camping and all that sort of stuff. Obviously, the food line, we just launched 2 new protein bars that are vegan, non-GMO, all on Amazon. I made them for my wife because she doesn't eat anything dairy. And then we've got a whole bunch of new bars, Vince. Apple pie. We've got chocolate and coconut. We've got pretzel and peanut butter. We've got oatmeal coming out. There's a whole new food stuff coming out. And obviously more TV. We just signed a new 2-year contract with Food Network and Discovery for lots of new stuff and lots more Restaurant Impossible.
Congratulations.
So the next 2 years we're busy. We're working on food stuff with the military, which is just pretty much announced. And just another couple of years, hopefully, of just keeping helping people and doing the right things for the right reasons. It's not about money, because I truly believe if you do things the way we're supposed to, money will always find you.
Right. I agree. And just amazing. And, Robert, it still won't be better than the peanut butter Fit Crunch bar. Peanut butter and jelly.
Oh my God. I'm telling you, this peanut butter and pretzel.
And it may not be better than the off-the-menu fried chicken at Joe Stone Crab that may have changed my life as well. But Robert Irvine.
The one thing I would leave is when you talk about passion, right? And Robert, that's been a theme that we're talking about, is passion and finding your passion. Because when you have passion for what you do, it's not work, right? It's
right.
Part of your life, and you're happy to get up in the morning. Yeah, you're going to have stressful days. You're going to have, all sorts of days. But as long as you're passionate and believe in what you do, that's what's the most important. And so, the one thing Robert didn't talk about is the Robert Irvine Foundation. And that's at the core of every single thing we do.
Talk about that.
Yeah, so the Robert Irvine Foundation, Robert started in 2014. We give back to our military veterans, first responders, and their family members through grants and programs. You can find a whole lot of information at www.robertirvinefoundation.org. But, for me as a person, I never would have really thought about the philanthropic piece of business and the social responsibility we have with our platform. But what I can tell you is it's one of the things that makes me the most proud and gives me the most passion to continue to get up and bust my butt every day for Robert. It's because everything we do has a give back component, and a percentage of our business goes back to the foundation to in turn help people. So I would encourage everybody to find something, absolutely find something, even whether it's through your work or personally, to give back, whether it's giving blood, whether it's going and volunteering in a soup kitchen, whether it's, working with the USO, et cetera. The Robert Irvine Foundation is a huge piece of Robert's life, and it will be his legacy for, decades and generations to come. So.
Yeah, I mean, I tell you, we say goodwill is good business, but particularly now with so many people in need and the industry that you're impacting, so many in need, and we don't even think about the students who are going back to these colleges. They're not going to be able to be baristas and servers, and line cooks and everything, maitre d's right now, but hopefully are front desk service workers at the hotels. But Robert Irvine, Justin Leonard, two of my favorite people on the planet, two of my closest friends, professionally and personally. We share a great partner in the Coca-Cola company and other things. But I can't thank you enough for sharing your time, words, and wisdom and passion with the students of virtual Milton University. Thank you, guys.
Well, you don't get off that easy. I want to say thank you to you for doing this for those students, because education is all about, right?
Yeah.
Learning and giving. And if you educate correctly, these students will be an amazing addition when they go out into the workforce and before that. So thanks, Vince, for doing this, and thanks for what you do every day for other people, because you're a very quiet guy and a humble guy, but I know you do an awful lot for a lot of people. So thank you.
Well, it's been, I always made a commitment that if I got, working my way through Auburn from rural Alabama, if I always was in a chance to give back. And so it's been very fulfilling just to your point, just get out there and do the right thing. Because if you can touch one life, you impact the world.
Yeah, for sure.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. And hopefully I'll get to break bread with you soon.
Thanks, Vince.
Take it easy.
Thanks, Vince. Hope you enjoyed today's virtual class. We'll be back soon with another edition of Melt University 2020.